So first up, it's the Sons of Horus, and sadly I don't know who is responsible for these. These were the first army I saw when I was looking into the cabinets. They looked very impressive and were a good start for the day's viewing. Now I do like the Sons of Horus, but they're not really my cup of tea. Next up, it was the World Eaters by Pete the Wargamer. These looked fantastic. I heard a few people whining in the background at the Mark 6 armour, but those people can do one. I almost went with World Eaters for my Horus Heresy army, you know. Now I never get why some people moan about certain things such as specific marks of armour. The universe in the game is such a massive place and you can make up almost any reason for anything and it's probably legit somewhere in the galaxy. These people need to stop being so elitist. Whilst doing my research for these clips, I did manage to find some of the creators responsible for these armies and I've put their names in the description and in the video, but there were still a couple I just could not find out. So if you know who they were, then please let us all know in the comments below. Also a massive thanks to the Games Workshop staff on the day who would let us piddle around with our cameras and take footage of absolutely everything. Thank you very much. I just wish I had more time on the day. It's a bunch of word bearers up next, and these ones were done by Broadsword Wargaming. Word bearers were never really my cup of tea either, and I always got them mixed up with World Eaters as a kid. They do make good bad guys though, if that makes any sense. The Blood Angels are next up, and again sadly I don't know who was responsible for these ones. I really liked the style of paintwork on these. They looked very 2nd edition, and the barrels on the melter weapons really set them off. Lovely work. Oh, also the bases on these were absolutely perfect. Not too busy, they were marvellous. Now some people say faces and bases make a miniature, but to me an overly busy base just looks messy. I prefer a nice tidy base. I like a big busy base on a display miniature or something that's in a diorama, but in an army I like them to be quite clean so they don't detract from the miniatures themselves. Again, that's all subjective, and again it's all up to you. What do you prefer? Next up, it's the White Scars army by the guys over at Cult of Paint. This was one of my favourite armies at the event. The Mark 6 Marines looked fantastic in white, and they did a tremendous job with them. There were also a lot of subtle but wonderful conversions. The Iron Warriors and the Salamanders were in the same cabinet together and only had a few miniatures of each. I don't know if the creators ran out of time or something, but they did look nice though. I really like the NMM on the Salamanders. Sadly, I don't know who painted either of these. Now NMM has been a thing I've avoided for years. It's always just seemed too hard. But I have a plan for that this year and I look forward to getting around to it. I just need some more hours in the day. Next up, we have some lovely Imperial Fists, again by an unknown artist. They were unknown to me because I got there before they put the name tags out. Anyway, Valrak would have been proud of these. I didn't see him on the day, so he must have been hiding. I used to play Imperial Fists back in the day, so I still have a soft spot for them. Is painting yellow still considered hard? We move on to some very interesting Dark Angels. I don't know who painted these either. Now black Dark Angels look so much better than the dark green, but I do think green is a horrid colour though. I really liked the Contemptor dreadnought in this army. It was fantastic. Now there's something about Contemptor dreadnoughts without all the bling on that makes them look so damn good to me. Do you prefer them with or without all the bling on the armour? These are Ultramarines and they were painted by Zorpazorp. The blue on these was really nice and I was impressed with how he made Ultramarines look interesting. They got flown in all the way from Australia, which was fascinating to me. I was then able to get a look into the cabinets. The work the Games Workshop team produced was absolutely incredible. A lot of it was new at the time, and it was very exciting to see it all in one place.
I imagine you get a lot of it nowadays. Some of us know who you are.
Oh, is that ram in the box? Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, they're going to sell.
Oh yeah, you know it. It's like
Full Martian definitely. The battle camera looks nice though. It does. You get both in a kit.
Now this was May last year, I think, and I cannot believe how fast that year has gone. At the time of writing this, I still haven't finished my Horus Heresy boxed set. We're on to painting tactical marines at the moment. I've been very busy, okay? So next up are some Iron Hands by Hellstorm Wargaming. I remember watching their video on how they painted these. It was a really good effort, and they have a very fun channel. The dirt and grime effect they used all over the army was quite nice too. Now it wouldn't be a Horus Heresy display without some Primarchs. These were all wonderful. Word on the street, or at the event, was that Angel Giraldez painted Horus in a weekend. Now I don't know if that's true, but if so, that's an incredible feat. There were Primarchs by Starly, Orion Miniatures, Demon Rich, I love his work, and Darcy Bono, to name but a few. Now I'm hoping there will be another of these sorts of shows sometime in the future, for either Horus Heresy or maybe even Epic or something like that. That would be ace. If they do one, I feel that I should be invited along as a creator this time, don't you? Come on, Games Workshop. Where's my invitation? There were some nice looking Space Wolves up next by Play on Tabletop. There were a lot of nice ice effects used on these, and the contrast was very poppy. Are Space Wolves the most overrated legion though? Possibly. Death Guard were up next, and these guys look suitably manky. Sadly, I don't know who was responsible for these. I loved all the effects of the corruption, and the basing style was very interesting. Now I tried some of that Lichen style basing once upon a time on my Elysian drop troops, which have now sadly gone the way of the dodo. One day I shall return to those and do a few more, but I can't imagine that's going to be for a while now. Purple Marines means Emperor's Children, and these were by Live and Let's Dice. The purple on these was lovely. These guys had some contrasting green accent colours which really popped in the cabinet. They looked so good I almost decided to go with Emperor's Children, but I didn't. So we then moved on to the Raven Guard by Guerrilla Gaming. I'm sure you've seen these on his channel. Now I do like Raven Guard and had a go at painting some once, but they got very boring very fast. Corax, however, is not boring. As a Primarch, I think he's one of the best. Now I remember once trying to speed paint a Raven Guard army in a weekend. It was just sprayed black, painting on some metal bits, painting the eyes, oh, and some metal weapon barrels. Put a dirt wash on it and call it done. Oh, and then do the bases. It was the fastest army ever painted, and it looked terrible. Here's a lovely looking army, the Thousand Suns by Warmaster Painting. These were one of my favourite armies on the day, if not the favourite. The red with hints of magenta was absolutely amazing. Sadly, it just doesn't show up right on camera. With the white accents, these looked brilliant. The Kratos was up next, and this was the first time people had a chance to see it in the flesh. It was nice to see the Dozer Blade too, as it hadn't been shown off in the previous promo shots. Do you think we will get some more big plastic tanks later? I hope so. Now I'm loving all the stuff coming out of the Games Workshop studio for the Horus Heresy. Now some people are saying there's far too many tanks and not enough infantry, and I guess they do have a point. However, I'm a big tank lover, so I'm happy with what we've got. Maybe by the time this video goes live, that will have changed. While I was there, I also managed to have a poke about at some things that were not entirely heresy related, like these Daemons by Louise Sugden. These are pretty famous on the socials, so I felt I needed a look myself. The use of colour was very nice, and I have to admit I really like Louise's painting style. I then had a few minutes to have a look at some proper Oldhammer things laying about on display. I've no idea what any of these things are, being fantasy. One of them looks like a Dark Angel's Watcher. Also, the skeleton pulling its head off reminds me of a scene in Robocop 2. Lovely. Now you can't fault the Robocop movies. Well, the first two anyway. The less said about the third and remake, the better. Now, have you ever noticed the Imperial Army appear to be wearing the same flak jackets as the police from the first Robocop movie? They have the very squared off chest breast pads. I highly doubt that was a coincidence. Do the dates line up? There was a familiar looking Chaos Warrior in the cabinet. Was his name Slambo? Was he from Hero Quest? Also, that box there was really sun faded. It was kind of cool to see. I also really liked seeing that old mail order box. Anyone remember those things? Yet some more Oldhammer, and there's some of those weird elementals in there. You don't see them anymore, which is a shame, as they're nice. I don't know what the winged dog things are from, but the display in itself was very nice. Now I'm tempted to make some sort of miniatures museum for when the new studio is done, featuring all my Oldhammer collection, all the way back from the release of Rogue Trader up through 2nd edition. But I am waiting for the weather to improve, which has finally appeared to have started happening, and it's now April. Yesterday though, it was literally snowing, so I've no idea what the fuck is going on with the weather this year. Damn you weather for holding back my dreams. Now check out this incredible Space Hulk scene from what I assume was the mid-90s, the Red Era. Space Hulk is bloody brilliant and it shouldn't be left languishing. In my opinion, Space Hulk should be a constantly available thing. Now, as I was painting some Night Lords, I took some footage of these Night Lords drop pods in the Forge World section. For my reference, you see. One's a pretty standard size, but the big one is massive. I think it's called a Charybdis or something. A lovely miniature. Now there are some times when I feel I would like to do a drop pod army, or a plop pod as Mrs. Snakeworks calls them. But I think I just love tanks a little bit too much. Maybe one day again that'll be something else I get around to, but I can't see it in the near future. Anyway, the big drop pod was about this big, it was massive. It was about half the size of this Hot Wheels box, which is interesting as because on the side of the box it says, if you're enjoying this video then please consider liking it and subscribing to the channel. That means you, Luke. If you are enjoying the content on this channel then please consider joining the Patreon, the link to which is in the description below or up here somewhere. Now how amazing is this? It's a scratch-built Thunderbolt diorama. I remember this from the pages of White Dwarf, again back in the Red Era when I was a lad. I love the little yellow tractor thing. You know, I've a Thunderbolt to build still in the pile of shame. Maybe I should homage this diorama. Now there's an idea. Here we have possibly the best diorama ever, one of the most famous matchups in fictitious history. This is the legend Mike McVeigh's masterpiece, the Emperor versus Horus on the bridge of the Vengeful Spirit. This sums up the heresy in one scene. Now interestingly, the Emperor is in white as opposed to gold and Horus is red instead of black. Which colour scheme do you prefer? I quite like the Emperor in white. Do you ever think we will ever get a new version of this diorama? We can but dream. God, I love that diorama. If you want to see some more videos, then check out the playlist up here somewhere. And as always, thank you very much for watching.